did it. And so, you know, when you meet people who are acting in a twisted and peculiar way, and you ask yourself, they're very manipulative, say, you ask yourself, well, do they know what they're doing? The answer to that could be, well, no. But another answer could be, yeah, but they knew once. They knew when they made the decision to start acting like that, but after they did it 100 times or so, and made it into an automatic routine, well, then they forgot its origin, and now it runs autonomously. And so now they don't know, but they did know. And so, you know, this is the sort of point, and this is the real point of the existentialists, where clinical psychology and the claims of morality start to become very tightly aligned. And it's something that the psychiatric and psychological industries, so to speak, don't really tackle head on. My experience has been that in these situations, for example, where the person has 5 terrible things going on in their life, that there's just deception twisted in and strewn in all of that. People are betraying each other, you know, there's no fidelity in the relationships, there's no clear and genuine communication, everything's manipulation, no one admits to what they're really up to. You know, there's a lot of false and saccharine love, which has absolutely nothing to do with love. It's all for appearance, you know, and you cannot be healthy in a situation like that. I don't think, in my experience, you know, apart from terrible luck, because, you know, you can get cancer, diabetes, or any number of awful things. In my experience, apart from the tragedies of life, there is nothing that hurts people more than deception. Lies do people in. And that's an existentialist claim. The claim is, first, well, life is basically unbearable. That's an existential claim. And then there's the hope that with sufficient caution and attention and clarity of thought and speech, you can master it. You can master it to the point where you could even accept the fact that it's tragic. But if you multiply its tragedy with the use of deceit, it's like, forget it. Because, you know, it's one thing to be hurt. You know, maybe you break your leg. That's one thing. It's another thing to be attacked by 2 or 3 people who break your leg and do everything they can to demean you at the same time. It's like, lots of people break their leg and they're not traumatized. It's very few people who can go through the latter experience without being, you know, seriously and permanently damaged. Here's Pascal, one of the first existentialists. When I consider the brief span of my life swallowed up in the eternity before and behind it, the small space that I fill, or even see, engulfed in the infinite immensity of spaces which I know not, and which know not me, I am afraid, and I wonder to see myself here rather than there. For there's no reason why I should be here rather than there, or now rather than then. Now, another thing the existentialists do that's very they're romantics. They're not Enlightenment rationalists. And part of the reason they're romantics is because they actually don't believe that life is rational. And Pascal's comment on what the existentialists often call thrownness is a description of the fundamental irrationality of life. It's like, okay, here you are. Well, why you? Why here? Why now? Why the way you look? Why with your family? Why your gender? Well, there's no answer to any of those questions. It's just how it is. It's blind and random chance, maybe. There's this, but even if it's not that, there's something arbitrary about it. And there's something that's arbitrary and not self-evidently just or fair. You know, because maybe you could have been born, you know, there are people around the world who make their living in garbage heaps, right? So there's whole families and whole societies that live out in the garbage dumps, and all they do is pick out, you know, the metal and glass that will enable them to sort of glean out a living. It's like, well, why the hell aren't you born there instead of, you know, sitting right here? So there's an irrational element to that, right? You can't justify it, you can't explain it, and you don't really even know what to do about it, right? I mean, do you owe an existential debt to the people who were born much worse off than you? Or is it just okay that it's that way? Well, it's a problem. That, by the way, is the problem the existentialists called thrownness, which is you're arbitrarily here in that form, and there's no explanation for it. And it's something that's outside of human concepts of, say, justice and equity and fairness and even sensibility. And then Pascal also points to the fact that, well, we're rather localized things, you know. You're right there, and there's a lot of what isn't right there around you, so you're a small thing against a big, infinitely large potential span of experience, and that's also an existential challenge. It's the challenge of the finite against the infinite. And that's also an existential problem, which is that it isn't your problem, or it is. It's more a problem. It's just a problem that springs out of being human.